Good evening once again. I'd like to welcome you to this session. Um, it's a wonderful session that has to be because we are dealing with a matter that is very relevant and a matter of academic writing from the point of view this time of writing a discussion, right? And so today, or rather this evening, we now are getting into another type of essay, which is discussion or discursive essay. Is this relevant to you, students? See, Patty, is writing a discussion essay relevant to you? Do you need that in your studies currently? Lebohang is writing a discursive essay or a discussion or an essay where you discuss a particular given topic. Does that touch base with what you are currently doing? I'm very direct this evening. Deborah is writing a discussion very, very relevant to what you are currently studying, doing. And Minky, is this helping you? Is this having a potential to help you at all? Muchichi is writing a discussion essay, an essay where you are discussing a topic. Something that perhaps could help in 1-2 areas in your studies because you feel there's a need to do that, or there are questions that challenge you to do that.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Tsepelang. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if I heard you well based on the question. So is the question saying the discursive essay is relevant to us?
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir. I would say that it's relevant to me because I once come across with a paragraph essay where I was discussing.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Tsepelang. At least that helps me big time because it says to me that the choice of this topic is appropriate.
All right.
You were challenged to write a discussion paragraph, I suppose, based on what you're saying. So this would bear fruit in terms of how to put together a discussion. Learning what it is that you do when you discuss is very important. Yes, Leboang?
It is relevant to my studies because I'm facing the challenge about writing the discursive essay that talks about bullying.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, just a follow-up, Lebo. Currently, you are writing an essay on bullying.
Yes.
And it is a discussion.
It is a discursive essay.
Okay. Wow. I like that disclosure. I wouldn't have known that if you did not say it. And how about we even develop a topic around that? Or you could even give us a topic that you are discussing on bullying in your module, and we work with that discussion. How about that? You can type it in your chat box or in the chat box, and we later look into that topic as to how we can handle or tackle that kind of a topic. We analyze it, and we sort of develop a discussion around it. How about that, Lebohang?
It will assist me. I will appreciate it.
You'll appreciate that. It's not like us giving you answers, but sort of unpack it together, analyze it, and establish what is it that you are discussing and how to put your discussion together. That would be something that we would actually discuss, and I would love to really get into the practicalities of it so that you are empowered and you get something out of this workshop. Okay, thank you for sharing, Lebohang, and also sharing with us what you are currently doing in your studies. Okay, Muchichi is writing. Thank you very much. discursive essay is relevant to my studies. It will need more opinions from different views. Absolutely correct. It will need you to think of it in that way, that you have multiple sides to the topic and you examine each side so that the reader ultimately would decide which side to go with and make an informed decision. So you have the right idea regarding a discursive essay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Michichi. Let's get straight into it and see if we can get something. Right. Now, what are the objectives or learning outcomes or expected outcomes? Or maybe first starting with writing a discussion essay. What do you do when you write a discussion essay? But before that, let's look at the learning intentions or outcomes. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to identify key elements. This is just a repetition of discussion or writing a discussion or discursive writing. Key elements of discursive writing. Identify them. Use these key elements of discursive writing in your own writing of a discussion essay. Now you ask, what are these key elements? I will get to them. Redraft your discursive writing using all the key elements. In other words, use these key elements in your draft essay. Let's look at what a discursive writing means. When you do a discursive writing, I like Lebohang's answer where she says, rather where Lebohang states that you look at the different sides of the topic. That is spot on, Lebohang. When you write a discursive or discussion, you are exploring or investigating those different sides to the topic. It could be 2 sides, it could be 3, depends on the sides that you find as you investigate the topic or the issue that relates or that is related to the topic. However, realize that if there are 2 sides to it that you are working on, remember that both sides of the issue are explored, not just one side. It's not about one side winning over the other. It's not an argumentative. You are exploring, you are investigating in detail in order to understand the issue, in order to understand the topic better, in order to come out of the discussion having a good knowledge of the issue, and having that, you can then decide which side of this issue you should go with. And you are deciding based on the information presented, and the information presented is so important that it helps you to say, I am making a safe choice. I have seen all these different sides, or I have read about these different sides, I have heard about them, but now I am able at this point to make an educated choice. So both sides of the issue are explored, or all the sides of the issue are explored or investigated, excuse me, and you will usually give your conclusion at the end while allowing the reader to decide for himself. Okay. These are topics that I used previously. Let me challenge you here. Let's look at topic number 2. Topic number 2 states, the debate rages on whether an academic or vocational qualification, so you have academic or vocational qualification, is more desirable. There's a debate around the 2 qualifications. Which one is more desirable? Is it academic or vocational? There's a debate around those two. Is it prudent to invest in an academic qualification that will not necessarily secure employment as opposed to skills-based training? Take a stance and argue your point with valid examples. Let's look at the first topic. Write a research-based essay where you compare and contrast your university experience against your experience at high school. Discuss 3 categories of your choice. Which of these 2 is a topic that requires that you write a discussion or a discursive essay? Is it topic number 1 or topic number 2?
I would say the discursive essay, it's number 1. Sir.
That is correct. The first one is where you are discussing. The instructional verb there that is even guiding us is the verb discuss, right? It is important that we know what is to discuss. Here we say when we're discussing, we are exploring. We are exploring the issue. We are exploring the topic. And when we explore the topic, it means we examine this issue or topic from the perhaps different positions. Okay, we examine or explore the topic looking at it from different positions or perspectives. Okay, think of a cameraman. Think of yourself taking pictures at a wedding. There is a couple that is getting married and you're taking their pictures. Now, what do? You will take them pictures from different positions. You look at them from the front, you look at them from the side, you look at them from the back, from different angles, so that you can get the best, the beautiful pictures of the couple, that when they look at these pictures, they are able to see the different positions on the day and how they looked on the day and appreciate the different sides from which you took those pictures. Now, think of that. You have actually moved from one position to the other as you were taking them pictures. Now, take that illustration and shift it to what a topic that you are discussing. You have a topic, and now when you discuss, you look at this topic and you say, what about this side? Let me write about this side of the topic. Let me write about the other side of the topic. Let me consider the other, this. And ultimately, all the sides that need to be focused upon on this topic have been explored by the writer. Now, you see, when you do that discussion, when you discuss this issue or topic that is given, you do so in order to understand the issue or topic better. You want to unpack it so that the reader understands or gets a broad view, or rather a very good view on the topic, to the point where they can decide by themselves that now they are well informed on the topic to make a decision that is safe. Hope you get what I'm saying. And why are they making a safe decision? They are making a safe decision because you were able to show the different sides of that issue. And having done so, now they are informed on that issue. And as such, they are better positioned to decide what is it that they can do. or what decisions they need to take. That is what you do when you are discussing. You are very balanced. You are exploring the issue by looking at it from different angles. And as you do that, you are aiming at basically informing the reader on that issue, ensuring that they know that issue like they know the palm of their hand. And ultimately, they can at least be able to say, no, based on all this consideration, I think it is better if we handle this thing this way, because now they are doing it from a position of knowledge on the issue. So you explore all the sides, and having done that, at the end, you can draw a conclusion and decide for yourself what is the best option of all these other options that are available. Right, thanks for that. Here are things that we need to consider when we do a discussion, cursive writing, discussion essay. Use formal language. I spoke about formal language, I believe. Don't use contractions. Use full sentences, and don't use rhetorical questions. Use statements, formal language. Don't use conversational tone. Use formal tone. That is what you need to do when you do a writing or academic writing. There must be an introduction and conclusion. This is just a repeat. I spoke about what an introduction is, what should go into an introduction. I spoke what should go into a conclusion in previous presentations. Also, anecdotes or statistics can help when you're doing a discussion. Let's look at two types of discursive essay. Now, we are getting into the details now of writing a discussion essay. There are ways that you can do your discussion. It depends on the topic you are handling. Right. Now, here we are having ways of discussing. Ways you are perhaps challenged to discuss. A student may decide that I'm going to discuss as guided by the topic by using the root of for and against. Or I'm going to discuss by writing an essay wherein I suggest solutions to the problems, depending on the topic that you are given. The topic determines whether you write a for and against essay or an essay that suggests solutions to problems. I hope you're with me. But where you are at this point in time, students, you may not know, or perhaps be able to establish exactly what I'm talking about when I say a for and against essay, or what I'm talking about when I talk essays suggesting solutions to problems. Because you don't see that, it's just these lines that are there on the slide. But let's look at how you can write a for and against essay suggesting solutions to the problem, because these are two ways that you can actually write a discussion. Okay, this is how you do a for and against discussion. Remember, when you write a discussion, you want to explore the different sides of the topic. Now, this writer is not only focusing on the advantages. The writer is focusing also on the disadvantages. Remember, he's looking at multiple sides. And so as he looks at the multiple sides, he's not only focusing on just one side, the against side. No, he is also shifting towards the for side. And that makes that writing a discussion writing. or discursive writing. Why? Because it's not one-sided. It's balanced, it's looking at both sides of the issue, or even more than that. They present both sides of an issue, discussing points in favor of a particular topic, as well as those against that particular topic in the same essay. For example, where you give advantages and disadvantages of a particular issue. When you do that in the same essay, you are writing a discussion. You are focusing on not just one side, but multiple sides. In this case, you are looking at the points for or in support of the topic and the points against the same topic that you have supported earlier. And you do that in the same essay. It's challenging to write a discussion, but it needs to be thought through carefully by students. Now, point 2, each point should be supported by justification or examples or reasons. Now, what do you mean by supporting? This takes us back to writing a paragraph. We said that each paragraph in an academic essay must be well developed. It must begin with the topic sentence or a sentence that carries the main idea of the paragraph, and the rest of the essay should the rest of the paragraph must support or develop that topic sentence by giving supporting details. Now, this is another way of writing a discussion or discursive essay. By writing an essay where you're suggesting solutions to problems. Writing an essay where you're suggesting solutions to the problems. For example, here you are given, and it is very important that we get an essay. And let's look at first these essays. The first topic says write a research-based essay where you compare and contrast your university experience against an experience at high school. Look in, or rather discuss 3 categories of your choice. Are you going to do for and against essay in the discussion? Or are you going to be presenting a problem and suggesting solutions to the problem as you look at your experience at university compared to your high school experience? I think here the arguments would be what is good about university and what is bad about university. What is good about university compared to high school? And what is bad about university compared to high school? Or what is good about high school compared to university? And what is bad about high school compared to university? So you are actually putting these experiences, you putting them side by side, and you are looking at what is good and what is bad in both, in both high school and university experience. Now, it is this type of essay that you will be discussion that you will do for and against essay. You will raise arguments for or in support of university and arguments against perhaps university. You would say, look at university, there are advantages. There are good things that are happening. However, be careful because there are also other traps which are not there in high school. So your discussion would be moving in that for and against mode. Right. It is not an essay where you write solutions to problems. It's not about suggesting solutions to the problems. It's focusing more on the first type where you're looking at for and against approach. Hope you get what I am getting to. Right. Essays suggesting solutions to problems. It is where now you analyze the problem associated with a particular topic or issue and put forward possible solutions, and perhaps also including expected results. Obviously, here when you write this one, let us look at the other topic. Is it essay that suggests solutions to a problem? This topic, the last topic, social maladies like crime, teenage pregnancy, illiteracy, and HIV/AIDS are fundamental threats to any country's development. Discuss two of these issues and illustrate how they potentially affect the development of a nation of your choice. Now, this topic number 3 is suitable for writing an essay suggesting solutions to the problem. Look, what is the problem? The problem is crime, teenage pregnancy, illiteracy. And then what you're doing is you show that this issue is a problem in the country. You show how the problem is affecting the nation, and you then can decide on what could be done, where you suggest perhaps possible solutions. Essays suggesting solutions to the problems. So the last essay, the topic that is given, it's more likely to be handled properly through the lenses of an essay that suggests solutions to the problems. We are writing a discursive essay, a discussion essay. Obviously, even with a discussion, we must plan our discussion. And making a list, especially if it's a for and against, you must make a list of points that are in support of the topic, or we could call them 4 points. And also on the other side, you need to make a list of the against arguments or points. So you're thinking in your planning, what am I going to say in support of this topic? And what is it that I'm going to say against or in opposition to this topic? And you prepare a list of points that you will write in support of the topic, and a list of points that you would write against the topic or in opposition to the topic. And so you are doing that to write the same essay. Okay. Make sure that you have sufficient arguments for both sides of the point. Very important point that you are doing, especially that you need to consider when you are writing a discursive essay. Obviously, when we do academic writing, we must support the arguments we make with relevant evidence from the sources. And then we reference, of course, this information that is obtained from sources. Structuring your essay, structure is very, very important. But then how do you structure a discursive essay or a discussion essay? There are 2 ways to do that. Look at the structures. You structure it the following way, where the one way that you can structure your discussion is where you begin with the introduction, and in the body, you write one paragraph or two arguing for or in support of the topic. One paragraph or two in support of the topic. Then after those, or after that, you then move to one or two paragraphs against the topic or in opposition to the topic. Do you see that structure? It's a straightforward structure. So you start by points that support the topic, maybe one or two. So you have two paragraphs that support the topic. And then you move to paragraphs, one or two paragraphs that are against the topic. You see that structure? It is a very nice structure that you can adopt when you write a discursive essay. Of course, that will be followed by the conclusion. Notice that you focus first on 4 points and then you end with against points. First 2 paragraphs, 4. Last 2 paragraphs in the body, against. Then those are then followed by, paragraphs are followed by the conclusion. Hope that structure makes sense to you. Maybe we should try an example to show how this structure works. But here is another structure where you start with the introduction. This is a discussion essay where you are including points for the topic or against the topic in the same essay. Look at this one. Point number 2. These are now body paragraphs. You write 1 or 2 paragraphs arguing for or against points and putting forward the counter arguments. Let's suppose, or let's say you are starting with a 4 point in the body paragraph. Instead of writing arguments for and finishing those before going to arguments against the topic. And once you are done with arguments against the topic, what do we mean by this? Students, let me illustrate. This is the introduction, and this is your conclusion paragraph. What is happening here is this. This would be your introduction. I'm just giving an example. Look at the colors. This would be your introduction, and this would be your conclusion. And you are writing using this structure on the left side of the slide, this structure on the left side of the slide. It says you write, you begin in the body paragraphs. After the introduction, you then move to the body paragraphs. You write 1 or 2 paragraphs arguing for. You see, these are 4 paragraphs. Which ones are those? These 2 here. Here are the 2 paragraphs. They are the same in color because they do 4 points. In other words, they are in support of what the topic says, right? Then I'm done with the 4 points or 4 arguments or paragraphs that support the topic. Then I shift focus. I switch to paragraphs that are against the topic in the same essay. You see, these 2 paragraphs are against the topic. And having switched to paragraphs that are against the topic, I then write a conclusion. Perhaps the conclusion would also include what the writer would support. Would he support the arguments for or arguments against? It depends on which of the 2 sides the writer feels strongly about. And the ones that he feels strongly about will be the one that would be supported or position that would be taken in the concluding paragraph. So it's about that. You have a for and against kind of arguments that are made in the same essay. It is a discussion. Now that has been done. Now let's look at the other structure. How different is this one? This is very different because it works differently. It works differently. Okay, we're going back to the same kind of route. We say this would be our introduction paragraph. There is our introduction paragraph. There is the conclusion paragraph. Similar. And then we look at the 4 paragraph arguments that are made for. Here is a 4 paragraph after the introduction. And I decided to start with the 4 paragraph. In other words, a paragraph that supports the topic. And then immediately after that, what do? I then switch to against paragraph. All right. And I then go, my next paragraph is a 4 paragraph in support of the topic. Then having done that, the next one that follows the 4 is against. So you see how it goes. See, this structure is different. 4 against. All right. And these are the two. These are the first paragraph, last paragraph, introduction and conclusion. So basically, the pattern is not the same. If you look at this pattern, it's very straightforward, simple structure, where you start with the for or against, and then you end with the opposite. You end on the opposite end. So if you started with the 4 arguments, you end with the against arguments. But here, you are mixing for and against. The first body paragraph focuses on perhaps what you want to start with. It focuses on for. But then the next paragraph, you then move to what? Against. The paragraph that follows that is a for the topic. The next paragraph that follows that is against the topic. So you do for, against, unlike the simple structure where you do for and finish, and then you go to against and you finish before the conclusion. Here you are alternating between for and against, for and against, for and against, until the end of the body paragraphs. And only then, at the end, can you then move to this conclusion. You see how it works. So this would be the first structure here, be what is called the simple structure. And this one we called the complex structure. Both structures can be used or are used to write what? A discussion essay. It depends on which one you want to use. Hope it clarifies it. Okay, there you go. I hope it clarifies it. I've lost the content now. All right. I hope it clarifies what I was saying to you so that we do not confuse, but we clarify and we make things easy and accessible to the students. So, do you understand the structure when you write a for or a for and against discussion? You can go with the simple structure number 1 or the complex structure number 2. Now, the simple structure, the first one, works like this. This is how it works. Step number 1, the paragraph, these are body paragraph or paragraphs. The first one there, step number 1 is the introduction. Let's look at it. It says a 1-paragraph introduction to the topic. It says the government wants to encourage more 16-year-olds to stay on at school. To encourage these pupils who return to for 5th and 6th year can now be paid to do so. Step 2, a link sentence explaining which side of the argument you will begin with. Now, the writer has started with their introduction, and now body paragraphs, what do they begin with? This is a simple structure. As pupils, or rather as a pupil, and therefore someone who might benefit from this plan, I would like to begin by looking at the reasons why some people believe it is to be a good case. So he is going to write to show that he's going to write a for argument. In other words, he's going to write in support of learners being kept at school longer and being paid to stay at school. He's going to support that. Then step 3, now take all of the points on one side of the argument. Each point should be in a separate paragraph, and these points should be backed with facts, observations, and personal experiences. When you do academic writing, those are very important. Now, how do you organize that paragraph? You use peel. I spoke about peel in the past. You begin with the main point, you then explain it, you then do what, or you provide evidence or examples, and you end the paragraph with the L or the link sentence. Now, step 4. We're still doing the simple structure. Remember, the writer started by saying it is good to keep them at school. Keep them and pay them. He's supporting that in the first body paragraph. But then what does he do? In step 4, write a link sentence showing that you are about to switch. Now here he's going to switch. After writing for staying at school for longer, maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs on that, he then switched to the other side where he says, I want to turn now to the other side of the argument and to voice the thoughts of those who do not think pupils should be paid to stay at school. So you see, he started by saying maybe it's a good thing. It's a good thing to do it. But then he then switches the side, and after switches the side to accommodate those who believe it is not a good thing to keep students longer at high school or at school. See how it works? Now you do the same on this side of the argument as you, step number 5, as you did at step 3 above, working from the strongest points down to the weakest. Then what follows in step 6 is your conclusion. So he started with 4 arguments, and after finishing the 4 arguments, he moves to the against arguments. And after the against arguments, he then ends with the what? A conclusion. Let us look at the conclusion. The conclusion here, you may wish, it says, let's just read this because I think it's important. Now, say which side you agree with. In the conclusion, you will say which side you agree with and why. You're going to show which arguments convinced you or refer to an experience in your life or the life of someone you know which has convinced you that a particular side is right. Now, here, the writer has to show where he perhaps would, which area or which side he would support. The writer here says it is clear that both sides have strong arguments. Now, both for and against arguments are very strong and credible. Having examined them, I feel that on the whole, it benefits people to stay on at school for as long as possible. So the writer now says he feels or thinks or believes that it is good to have students stay at school for a longer time. This is where he stays. After considering what those who say no are saying, the writer then comes to the conclusion it is safe to keep them longer at school. Anything that encourages someone to get more education and better qualification is a good thing. So I think the cost of the scheme is money well spent. So the writer is supporting learners or students staying on campuses or at school for a longer time before going out or leaving to look for jobs. But there is another structure number 2. So here we're going to focus on structure number 2, this one here, focusing on this side here. So it says about the complex structure. The more complex structure for two-sided pieces make you look more skilled at handling your material. So of course, this one is trickier than the first simple structure. You need to think carefully as you write the complex structure a discussion. Complex structure works like this. Let's look at how it works. There's going to be, of course, the introduction and conclusion, which are the same as in the simple structure essay. However, in the main body of the essay, you begin with strongest arguments from one side of the argument. Then, in the next paragraph, you work through a point on the opposite side that contradicts what you have just written about. This is what the writer means here, that you begin with a 4 paragraph, then immediately you then switch to a paragraph that is against what you would have said in the 4 paragraph. So let's say the 4 paragraph says that they must be kept at university because, or at school, they must be kept at school for a longer time. If you say they must be kept at a school for a longer time because it will benefit in terms of crime and other things, you could say in the next paragraph, which is against, say it is a delay. If you keep them longer at school, it delays them the start that they need in life. It just keeps them locked up there and they are not moving forward. So basically, this is the against paragraph. So you have them alternating. 4 against, 4 against, like you see in the complex structure. Okay. Then in the next paragraph, bullet number 3, then in the next paragraph, you work through a point on the opposite side that contradicts what you have just written about. So you actually moving from one point to the other as you work with this alternating side, or rather alternating these sides. This is an example of a complex structure. Look at how they alter. The writer alternates the sides. It begins by saying, perhaps the strongest argument for paying young people to stay on at school is that it stops them leaving to get a job. In lower income families, there may be a lot of pressure on teenagers, even very bright ones, to leave school and go out to look for work as soon as possible to bring some money into the house. That is where he's supporting them, perhaps he is supporting them not staying on at school because when they stay on at school, no, he is actually, in the first paragraph, he supports them staying at school. But then in the next paragraph, he is actually saying, no, they shouldn't, because when you keep them there in order to perhaps look for a job, especially those who come from disadvantaged background, you are saying they should. In the next paragraph, it says that it means the parents want those kids to work for them, which is not good. He says, however, this assumes that poorer parents just view their teenagers as a source of income. This is an insult to these families. All good parents want their kids or children to do well and get qualifications. They know that school is already giving their children something very valuable, which is a good education. So the writer is alternating the sides here. Then you follow that pattern. The second strongest point from the first side of the argument, explain it and then challenge it by making another point from the opposite side to contradict it. You go with that pattern. This is what I was explaining. You go with that pattern where you have the 4 arguments and then followed by the against argument. 4 arguments followed by the against argument. You go on with that pattern right through the essay. And as you do that, you are able to do what? You are able to write a complex structure of discursive writing. Now, these are ways you can put forward your arguments. These are ways you can put forward your arguments. You say people in favor of students staying longer at school argue that. This is how you do it. You see that the verb argue that. It's usually used in academic writing. People in favor of students or learners staying at school for a longer time, they argue that. Here is another one. Supporters of learners staying at school for a longer time believe that. I want you to use that phrase in that way. They believe that. Or you could say, advocates of learners staying at school longer maintain that. Campaigners of learners staying longer at school claim that. You see the introductory verbs there, argue that, believe that, maintain that. This is what you use when you're writing your essays. Proponents of learners staying longer believe or feel that. Those who support learners staying at school for a while suggest that. So I want you to look at this in rather introductory verbs and use them in your own writing. Pressure groups in favor of learners staying longer at school agree that. See how it works. Believers in learners staying longer at school agree that, or argue that, or believe or maintain that. Followers maintain that or claim that. These are introductory verbs that you can actually use. How to add information to support your argument. This is how you add information. And it is also used when you want to join 2 similar ideas together. You can use therefore, moreover, also. These are introductory, these are perhaps logical connectors that you can use to add information to what you've already said. Begin by over, also, in addition, on top of that, consequently, in addition, furthermore, thus, hence, what is more. But if you want to reformulate your ideas, this is what you would do to reformulate your ideas. You could say in other words, or you could begin by to put it more simply or to put it differently. It would be better to say, alternatively, to put it straightforwardly. These are ways that you can actually use to begin with reformulation of ideas for emphasis purposes. If you want to put forward a contrasting argument, in other words, you put forward a paragraph that is contrasting what you have said in the previous paragraph, could begin by using the logical connector, however, nonetheless, or nevertheless, yet, in spite of that, in contrast, or on the other hand, despite the fact that all the same, you see, these are what we call logical connectors which you can use to show that what you are about to write is opposing what you have already said. How to put forward your against arguments. People against argue that this is no longer people in support of here is people against, or critics of learners staying longer at school or students staying longer at school argue that or believe that these are expressions that you need to use. Opponents of learners staying longer at school maintain that. You see that you do the same on the against side or with the against that. Challengers of learners staying longer claim that. Campaigners against, they feel that, etc. I believe this is a very important way to learn how to do arguments for and arguments against, and how to begin those in your essay. This is how you introduce evidence and examples in your paragraphs. You could say, this clearly demonstrates. Now, this is you introducing evidence. Or you could say, this illustrates how, or there is some, or clear evidence that, there is mounting evidence that, etc. A recent study found that, research tells us that you could actually use those expressions to, or phrases to begin your, to introduce evidence, right? Then how to explain consequences. Would say, because of what happened. Okay, because of this happened due to that. So here you are showing how you're explaining consequences. As a result of this is what happened. On account of, okay, so you could actually get to that as well. Direction markers. Direction markers are words which give you direction as to where the writer is going with the next, or in the next paragraph. The words which are direction markers, they give you that direction. Look at the direction markers. In the middle of that slide, written in white, it says next. I would like to deal. You see, it's giving you direction what the writer is about to do. Next. So direction markers are very important. Also, it means that the writer is about to add information to what they've already said. It says also, cheap airlines tend to treat their customers like cattle. Some words and phrases let the argument change direction. Nevertheless, you see, all of those are important direction markers that give us an idea what the writer is up to next. Here are more direction markers that you can actually use. These are direction markers that we use when we introduce conclusions. In conclusion, or to summarize, these are direction markers when you are sure about what you are writing. You say it is absolutely clear that pollution is increasing. You must be very sure to make a statement like that. What about repetition? Some writers use repetition as a technique, writing technique, to emphasize the point that they are making. To emphasize the point that they are making. So it says here, one form of abuse is, yet another form of abuse is. A further example of abuse is. Do you see the expression abuse, abuse, abuse is repeated quite often in that line? And the repetition can be used for what? For emphasis. Good evening, sir. Can you please explain how to structure the introduction? Charmaine, I did that. Where is Charmaine? I did that many times, Charmaine. I did that so many times so that students are aware how to structure an introduction. I believe what are the key points that you should include in your introduction. I've done that in the past and I did it several times. Right, so but I have the work here. Before I continue, I would like to hear from you. Are you getting the structures of a discussion essay or discursive essay? Simple structure, complex structure, are you getting those? Are you able to apply them? especially complex structure where you begin with the argument for and then followed by argument against, then argument for and then argument against. Are you following all of this? Or it's not easy for you to understand still what is being said? I really want to pause and get some feedback from the students regarding this presentation. I've already presented on the for and against kind of arguments in one essay of a discussion, wherein we say in our discussion we have arguments for and arguments against in the same essay, and we have seen how to introduce arguments for. You say supporters of belief, proponents of the state, like that. You go on like that and on and on and on like that, and it is what you call a complex structure. But then do you get it? Can you do a complex structure? Can you do a simple structure? I think a simple structure is more straightforward, and I believe at this stage it's better to stay safe with the simple structure than complicate with complex structure that would demand a number of things which at this stage we may not give them. Yes, I see Charmaine is coming back again with a comment there that saying yes, if you were there in the previous workshops, I did discuss how to do an introduction, and I believe I said in those workshops that you cannot leave out the thesis statement, Charmaine. You cannot leave out that. It's very, very important. You also cannot, Charmaine, leave out the summary of ideas that help the reader to know what your essay is about. So those are very, very key points that you need to include in your introduction. I've shown you an example of introduction already so that you could see that the writer was actually starting with a thesis statement and continued with, I think he gave some definitions and then ended with the introduction that shows or gives the reader the summary of ideas that the reader may that would help the reader to know what the essay is about. Let's go back to the strategies, and I believe the body structure of discussion where we're using for and against argument is beginning to take shape. Students, I like to believe. Let's look at the writing strategies that we could use. Remember all of those phrases that we can use when we do academic writing. Supporters of believe that, critics of state that. Those are ways that the structure that you need to use when you're writing your essay. Sorry. Now let us look at this and say what we need to say. We're looking at writing strategies that the students can use to really write powerfully or imaginatively. Look at this anecdote. What is an anecdote? Students can use anecdotes in their discussion or in their discursive essay. What is this? This is where the student writes a personal story to illustrate or to sort of make a point. They only use, please use this anecdote if you are confident that it will work, where you are sharing a personal story to make a particular point. Here's an example of an anecdote. In other words, an anecdote would be what the student includes in the essay based on the student's personal experience. And the warning is you don't want to just be too much with anecdotes. I used to watch the older children standing around and drinking. I would envy their maturity so much until the day I saw one carried away in an ambulance. She was unconscious. So basically what this paragraph says is the writer was there when the students lost consciousness from drinking, and the student was there when he saw the person carried into an ambulance, and at the time this person was unconscious. So this is the experience of the writer, and he wants to include that anecdote in his own essay. It's allowed to include anecdotes or anecdotal evidence. And the other thing, some writers, they believe that statistics are necessary to make their work to be more factual. Here is an example where you quote stats to support your point. More fast food outlets has seen obesity rise by 500% since the 1950s. Such an increase means that skeptics cannot argue that we have a problem. We do have a problem with it, and it is important to note that the writer here is looking at the percentages. Why is he giving or quoting stats? To make a point, to support a point, to strengthen the point that the writer is making. So you can use statistics, you can use anecdote in your discussion. What about conclusion? Writing a conclusion of a discussion essay or a discursive essay. Sorry about the pause. Sum up your main ideas. Remember, when you are discussing, at the end, you sum up the ideas. But the idea there is, having summed up those ideas, you should be able to take the side that you feel strongly about. All right, what do we mean by that? I have summed up, in other words, points from both angles or from all the sides. I have summed them up in the conclusion. And then what do? I state my point of view on those points. Which one do I believe it is stronger than the rest, or which one do I support of all the points that have been made? Give your reason for this. So you give your reason for this, very, very important. Offer a solution if you have one. In other words, give your reason why you support that point. Of all the points that are made in the essay, which one do you support? I support this one. And why are you supporting it? And then offer a solution if there's a need for one, right? Expressing your opinion in the conclusion, you could say, I agree or disagree with the above statement. That, or you could say, in my opinion, or you could say, I believe that, or you could say, I am in favor of, or I am against the idea of, or you could say, it seems to me that, or I sympathize with. So these are ways that you could actually express your opinion in the your view in the concluding paragraph. Conclusion word bank. You can begin your conclusion by saying, to sum up, or altogether. Could use those expressions or ways to begin your introduction, rather your conclusion. You could say, on this basis, I can conclude that, or you could say, given this, it can be concluded that, or having proved this, I would like to say this. In conclusion, I would like to stress that. You see how you begin your conclusion. Having proved this, or in conclusion, or on the basis of this, or all in all, I believe that, or you could say ultimately, or you could begin by saying finally, I would conclude that, or as outlined previously or earlier, say as previously stated, could conclude that, etc. But here is an activity. I'm giving you this essay, and I want you to work with it in as the last activity. I'm not giving 3 essays, I'm giving 1. Do you notice that there's a checklist? I'm not sure if it's clear on your side. This is a checklist. Is the essay that I'm about to give you and a for and against essay, or is it an essay suggesting solutions to problems? Is it using simple structure or complex structure? Does it have topic sentences in the body paragraph? And does it follow pill structure? In other words, does it begin with the point and the point is explained and then there is evidence given and it ends with the L? But you need the information here so that you can decide whether the essay I'm about to give you is a for or an against, or an against essay, rather a for and against essay, or an essay suggesting solutions to problems. Is it using simple structure, complex structure, and does it have topic sentence, and does it follow a pill structure? So you need to make up your mind if whether these things are there in the essay that I'm about to give you. This is the essay. You've taken a picture of this slide. Now you are using this checklist to verify if this essay I'm about to show you is actually a for and against essay, or is it an essay that suggests solutions to the problem? Is it using a simple structure or a complex structure? Does it begin the topic sentence, or does it use pill structure? You do all of that, and you use that slide, the previous slide, to examine this essay. It is an essay that suggests solution to a problem. Yes, I agree with Tsepelang. Thank you, Tsepelang. Is an essay that suggests solution to the problem. And what is the problem? The problem is given. Let's go to the slide. The problem is given, and it is the abandoned children problem. And we seek solutions to this problem. How do you stop? How do you end the problem of abandonment of children? So yes, you are right. It's a discussion, but it's a discussion that looks at a problem and seeks solutions to that problem. So it's a discussion essay. It doesn't work the same way as with regard to, or the same way as with regard to for and against discussion. It works slightly differently. So thank you for that. It is correct what you have given. Now, is it using a simple structure or complex structure? In other words, does it do zigzag? Does it say, here is the problem, here is the solution, here is the problem, here is the solution, here is the problem, here is the solution, problem, solution, problem, solution? Or does it work with simple structure where it gives the problems, a picture of the problem, and then hopefully at the end you get the solution? I think to answer this one, we did not get into the point of the yet. We did not get to the point where the solutions are really given to the problem. But it looks to me that it's working with the simple structure because it really outlines or gives all sides of the problem, and we are awaiting the solutions to those problems. What can be done to solve the problem of child abandonment? The writer, of course, will actually shift to that focus later in their essay. So it uses simple structure. It starts with the problem, paints a picture of the problem, and gives us an idea how the problem, how vast, how big the problem is. Then following that, then it looks into what the solutions thereof could be. Topic, sentence, and pill structure. Does it use topic, sentence, and pill structure? It must be using it. The first sentence is the main point of the paragraph, and then it follows with the sentences that explains the main point, and it follows with evidence or examples that support the main point. It ends with the L. So that pill structure is being adhered to in those paragraphs that are given in the essay itself. So indeed, the checklist is showing that, rather, when we apply the checklist to the essay, it shows that the essay, or our essay, is an essay that suggests solutions to the problem, is a discussion essay that suggests solutions to the problems. It uses simple structure. It also uses the pill structure. So yes, that is what we can say with regard to the this kind of an essay where we write a discussion. I'm hoping that students now understand how to do a discussion. When you write a discussion essay, you look at all sides of the issue, and in the conclusion, your focus will be on having to choose one side, rather choose the side that you perhaps believe it is the most acceptable one, the most reasonable one, and you state why you believe that is the one that should be supported. And you can do you can do for and against, or where you seek solutions to a problem. Those are the two types or two ways to write, in fact, the discursive essay. Remember also the simple structure and the complex structure. You can use either of the two structures in writing your discussion or discursive essay. So we have looked into it. Remember, we are just getting the structures there, the technical aspects of writing. We did not say anything about referencing, did not say much about those other aspects, but I'm hoping as we move along, we'll get into those areas. Okay, I'm hoping these workshops are beneficial to you. They are opening your eyes to a few things. Linda will ask the question about the structure of an introduction. I spoke about it. I hope that has helped you as well. Otherwise, thank you very much. I'll then see you again on Tuesday next week. Good night, students. Good night. Thank you for attending this workshop.